Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I always like to give credit where credit is due, so I got this video idea actually by looking at a post Dr. Mike Israetel made this morning, and yeah, fantastic idea. So I'm going to put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. The reason I chose this one is you guys know personally, I've always said this idea of trying to do partial reps to put constant tension on a muscle is complete nonsense, and it's contradictory, it's counterproductive, and it might even lead to more injuries. It's not a good idea. And you guys know that I've said before that people who want to get the most out of a single set, rest pause training is generally going to be superior. Rest pause is fantastic for people who are like, I want this set to count for everything. Rest pause, straight up. And he pointed out, rightly so, that oftentimes doing stuff to keep total tension on the muscle is a complete contradiction, because these same people will do multiple sets where you're getting a big break. I mean, taking 2 or 3 minutes between sets is a really long break. That's not constant tension. Their whole idea is not giving the muscle rest. They're taking an enormous rest. And the same people would be happy to do a little bit of rest pause or drop sets every now and then. Well, you're not keeping constant tension. That's the opposite of it. And the truth is, we know that a lot of big exercises, pausing, coming to a complete stop at the bottom, like the deadlift, actually makes it superior for muscle recruitment. So this idea of constant tension isn't really true. And the other thing is, constant tension at the expense of full range of motion can actually shortchange muscle development. Muscles do very, very well when they are trained through their full range of motion. That's going to give you fantastic potential muscle fiber recruitment. You're using the muscle completely through the full range of motion. You're doing what it's intended to do. It also tends to create better joint stability. It tends to reduce injury rates more if you do everything through a full range of motion. And I don't mean stupid range of motion. I don't mean if you're doing dips that you go down as far as you can with something that would be a non-natural range of motion for something. You know, I don't mean extending ranges of motion to dangerous levels. I don't mean taking dumbbells and going, well, I can go this far with a barbell, so let me take dumbbells and see if I can go 6 inches lower and try to stretch my rotator cuffs. That's not what we're talking about here. We mean full range of motion. A bicep curl, you go all the way down, you lock the elbow, and you bring it up to the top. If you're not locking the elbow at the bottom, you're not training the bicep for its full function. The bicep is made to actually go all the way down and help you, pull from a locked elbow. The bicep is designed to do that. That's what it does. You're skipping part of the function of a muscle, and if you're skipping part of the function of a muscle, you might be shortchanging its development. It's not a guarantee that you will, but you might be. Muscles actually respond well to being trained for their full range of motion and the different functions that they perform. That's what they do. If you want them to get bigger and stronger, it's a good idea to do that. It helps. And we know that not training them through full ranges of motion can make you predisposed to certain types of injuries in some muscles. So it's just not a good idea to do partials. And guys who are doing this are like, well, I get a deep burn. Well, yeah, but that deep burn is at the end. You guys who are doing these partials and getting that burn, where are you getting that burn at? The last rep or two? Think about it, because if you keep constant tension, you can't keep going after it starts burning, because then you're trying to do rest pause. Well, then you're doing the exact opposite of what you're trying to do with the constant tension. When you lock it out somewhere and wait a couple seconds to do more, compare that to doing big, heavy barbell movements with rest pause. And rest pause doesn't need to be necessarily low reps like I tell people to do sometimes. Rest pause could be taking a 10-rep set. Think about the most classic form of rest pause training that you guys think of. And it's very famous. Guys have been doing this for like 30 years and getting enormous. You guys remember the old Widowmaker squats? 20-rep squats from back in the day. How many of you guys know anyone who's done this and said, man, it exhausted them, but they got really, really big when they started lifting? It was designed to get high school football players big and strong as fuck. They would take up somewhere between a 10 and a 12 rep max on a squat. They would squat until they got to that 10th rep. Then they would start doing deep breathing squats. They would take several deep breaths and then do another squat. Take several deep breaths and do another squat. Take several deep breaths and do another squat until they managed to get to 20. And usually by the time they got to 20, they were ready to pass out. They were throbbing, they were burning. There's no way they could train more leg work after that. Usually your legs were completely trained to exhaustion. That last 10 reps gave such an insane burn with several seconds, as many sometimes as 7 or 8 or 10 seconds between to get to that 20th rep. Gave a more intense burn than you will ever get from doing little partial reps. It gives an intense burn because you've taken the muscle to failure, you've built up all these metabolites, and you're letting just enough metabolites clear to do one more rep. And then it keeps building up metabolites and creating a buildup of these things. It creates an extreme anabolic effect. It is about as intense as you can possibly get in terms of feeling the burn, but it's done with full range of motion and pausing at the top to get more reps. It also is so fatiguing that that's about all you can do. You can do that one set of those and you're done. But you recruit maximal muscle fibers doing it. Dante, with his dog crap training back in the day, also with cycling for pennies, created a very, very effective training program right around the turn of the millennium, around just after year 2000. Tons of young guys on the internet did and got massive. He had people do nothing but rest pause training like that, literally training only about 3 days a week, 4 days a week tops, coming in and doing 1 to 2 work sets where they would come in and do rest pause in exactly that manner. You basically are doing one extended set. But every single one of the pause reps, those last 5 to 10 pause reps that you're doing, give the exact same intense burn on every single rep that you get from doing any of this stuff to failure with partial reps. So it's creating a deeper burn, it's creating more metabolite buildup, it's creating a more anabolic environment, and it recruits maximal muscle fibers. You are going to hit the upper threshold fibers doing that, and you're going to completely exhaust those strength and power fibers from doing that rest pause work at the end. Absolutely unavoidable. It's an extremely effective way to train. It is brutal, and the thing is, these same guys who want to talk about how hardcore they train for maximum size, and they do all this partial work, mid-range partial work, trying to get a burn with constant tension, let them go try some of this rest pause training with squats, with deadlifts, with overhead presses, with rows, with big, heavy barbell movements. Try this type of rest pause training and come back and tell me how much your other stuff burns. It doesn't. But you've got the added benefit of using moderately heavy weight. You are training everything through a full range of motion. Full range of motion. So you are training those muscles to work through the full range of motion, and you're only really doing one set, but you're getting such an intense burn and building up so many metabolites and waste products, you probably can't keep training those muscles after that. You have hammered them into the ground. And it's a brutally effective way to train, but the problem is that it hurts. It's painful. It will leave you nauseated. It will leave you fatigued. So a lot of people choose not to do it. I do it periodically every now and then. I haven't been doing it again lately because it buries me. I might start doing it again when I start having weak points I want to bring up. It's a very, very effective method for that, but it will make you big and strong as fuck. And for all the reasons that people do this, I can't even remember what they keep calling it, continuous tension training, it does everything they're trying to achieve with the continuous training, continuous tension stuff, but it actually trains everything through the full range of motion and is more effective at doing what these same people are trying to do. And it's funny because you basically have a PhD in kinesiology who competes in bodybuilding is actually getting up kind of saying that, look guys, this is actually superior to what you guys are trying to do. And he's right. And I've said that for a long time now. I've been saying that for a year or two to you guys. This continual tension partial rep stuff is nonsense. It's goofy bodybuilder traditional fluff. The only reason these guys get away with it is because they use a lot of drugs. But there are also guys who can't afford as many drugs back in Dante's day who all got massive using, again, he called it cycling for pennies. Because sometimes to train this way, you might actually need drugs to recover. Let's just be realistic. If you were to train year-round with rest pause training the way I just described, you're not going to recover without drugs. Naturals aren't going to want to do it more than about 3 weeks straight. If you're drug-free, don't train that way more than about 3 weeks. It's going to be fantastic for one phase, but it's going to make you overreach. You're going to need to deload. Dante originally came up with doing it that way as a year-round method for guys who are running pretty hefty doses of gear. And his thing called cycling for pennies, and it was effective. Tons of guys on tight budgets who couldn't afford a lot of drugs used his methods, and I knew a lot of guys who got really fucking big doing this. But again, it's not for everyone. You are going to have recovery issues if you were to train that way year-round, but you have recovery issues because it is so effective with such little work and time in the gym. But it works very, very well. And again, it does everything these guys want to do, talking about feeling the burn by doing little partial reps with continuous tension. No, man, go do some heavy rest pause training. Crank out 5 to 10 more reps using rest pause on full range of motion, big movements, and then come back and talk about the burn. Totally different, and it's actually way more effective. So it just kind of goes to show that some of this little fluffy wuffy stuff guys do because they think they want to be hardcore. They talk about being hardcore, but they really don't want to try the proven, really hardcore, brutal training methods out there that have been devised for guys who want to go all the way. And that's a big difference I want to remind people. It's one thing to come in and enjoy training. It's another thing to want to really train to feel the burn. It's not for everybody. And if you don't want to be that hardcore, that's okay. Not enough people tell people that. It's okay if you don't want to do that. But for these guys who are claiming they're really hardcore and they want to feel the burn and they do all this fluffy wuffy bullshit, go give some rest pause training a try. Some real rest pause training with some deadlifts or barbell rows, and then come back and talk about the burn. And talk about how big and strong you get in comparison with less potential injuries, because you're actually training your everything to a full range of motion. You're training your connective tissue, your joints, everything else to get stronger as well. These little partials can subject you to higher injury rates in the long term. Not really a good idea. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.